The boxer at rest, also known as the term boxer, is one of the world's most iconic ancient bronze statues. Dating to the Hellenistic period, it marks a striking departure from the idealized depictions of victorious athletes commonly found in classical Greek art. Instead, it presents a raw and unfiltered image of a battered fighter. The statue depicts a seated boxer, his arms resting on his knees. Though still muscular, he is no longer in his prime. His body bears the unmistakable signs of a life spent in the brutal arena of ancient boxing. A close examination reveals an extraordinary wealth of physiognomic details, emphasizing that this was not a novice. His face is marked by bruises and cuts. His lips appear sunken, as if his teeth have been knocked out or pushed inward. His crooked nose exhibits signs of a fracture badly set, or perhaps a fresh break from his latest bout. His ears, swollen and deformed, a condition known today as cauliflower ears, testify to years of repeated trauma. In antiquity, this affliction was called aureum fungi, or mushroom ears, as described by the early Christian writer Tertullian. The boxer breathes through his mouth, his expression and body language capturing the immediate aftermath of a grueling fight. The tension in his arms and legs suggests that despite his exhaustion, he remains ready to spring up and face another challenger. His head is turned to the right and slightly raised, as if listening intently, perhaps to the call for another match. The quick turn of his head is accentuated by drops of blood, represented by inlaid copper, which appear to have just fallen from his wounds onto his right thigh and arm. This sculpture also provides valuable insight into the practices of ancient boxing. The figure is nude except for his hymantes, a type of leather hand wrap attached to a ring around the knuckles, sometimes padded with wool. These leather straps, the only protection fighters had, could inflict deep lacerations on an opponent's skin with every blow. One detail that may surprise many is the discreetly tied genitalia. The boxer wore a kynodesme, a cord or leather strap that kept the privates secured to prevent them from flapping about during combat. This practice was common among Greek and Etruscan athletes. The sculpture was created using the lost wax casting technique and soldered together from 8 separately cast segments. The joints were filled and finished so seamlessly that they are nearly imperceptible. At some point in antiquity, the top of the head was restored, indicating that repairs to bronze statues were not uncommon, though few such restorations survive today. One of the most striking aspects of the statue is the extensive use of copper inlays. The wounds on the boxer's head, the drips of blood on his right thigh and arm, as well as the lips, nipples, and the stitching of his boxing gloves, all feature this technique. Notably, the bruise under his right eye was cast with a different alloy to create a darker coloration. Additional detailing, especially in the hair, was achieved through cold working after the casting process. Although the boxer's inset eyes are missing, they would have been crafted from materials like marble, frit, quartz, and obsidian, similar to those found in some other ancient sculptures. The eyelashes, likely made of bronze or copper, would have added further realism. Unlike many Greek and Roman marble sculptures that were vividly painted, this bronze statue was left unpainted, maybe apart a few details. While some ancient bronzes were coated with plaster and colored, this was rare. The presence of copper inlays and the use of differently colored alloys suggest that the artist intended for the bronze surface to remain exposed. It would have been shiny, reflective brown, similar to tanned skin. The modern stone base is a reconstruction, likely approximating the appearance of the statue's original support. In antiquity, a stone pedestal contrasting with bronze would have enhanced the statue's realism. The boxer at rest was unearthed in 1885 during excavations on Rome's Quirinal Hill conducted for the construction of the now demolished National Theatre. Hidden for centuries beneath the city, it was remarkably well preserved in its subterranean resting place. The statue was discovered near the site of the ancient baths of Constantine, where it may once have been displayed as a tribute to male athleticism, possibly brought to Rome from Greece as a spoil of war. Greek bronze sculptures are rare, as they were often melted down and repurposed, making the preservation of the boxer at rest extraordinary. Evidence suggests that the statue was revered in late antiquity, as indicated by the worn-down fingers and toes, likely from centuries of touching by ancient passers-by. It has been suggested that the statue was attributed healing powers, as was known to have occurred with other statues of famous athletes. It is perhaps thanks to its popular veneration that the bronze statue was protected and carefully buried when the baths of Constantine fell into disuse during the Gothic War, a time when the Ostrogoths severed all but one of Rome's aqueducts. The statue was found not lying in dirt and broken in pieces, but seated nobly atop the capital of a Doric column, covered in a layer of sifted soil that protected the delicate bronze surface from the ravages of time. Photographs capturing its emergence after centuries underground make it easy to grasp the excitement of those who witnessed the moment. The supervising archaeologist Rodolfo Lanciani vividly recounted the discovery. "I have witnessed, in my long career in the active field of archaeology, many discoveries. I have experienced surprise after surprise. I have sometimes and most unexpectedly met with real masterpieces. But I have never felt such an extraordinary impression as the one created by the sight of this magnificent specimen of a semi-barbaric athlete coming slowly out of the ground as if awakening from a long repose after his gallant fights." Like many Hellenistic sculptures, the boxer at rest is difficult to date precisely, given the stylistic diversity of the period spanning from 323 to 31 BC. Some scholars place it in the late 4th century BC, noting its stylistic similarities to works attributed to Lysippos, while others suggest a mid-1st century BC date, drawing comparisons to other classicizing sculptures like the Belvedere torso in the Vatican Museum. The current, broad but early dating of the statue from the late 4th to the 2nd century BC follows the assessment of Dr. Rita Paris, a former director of the Museo Nazionale Romano at the Palazzo Massimo alle Terme. The name of the artist who created this masterpiece remains unknown. Scholars have also debated the identity of the portrayed boxer. While some, like British archaeologist Roland Ralph Redfern Smith, argue that the sculpture represents a generic boxer, others suggest it depicts a specific individual. In the 19th century, German archaeologist Otto Rosbach proposed the statue depicted King Amycos, the mythological ruler of the Bebryces, a tribe who lived in Bithynia in northern Anatolia. This theory was later supported by American archaeologist Phyllis Williams Lehman and German archaeologist Vinzenz Brickmann. Mythological Amycos was a skilled boxer who forced all strangers who came to his shores to fight him. When the Argonauts stopped at the land of the Bebryces on their way to fetch the Golden Fleece, Amycos challenged them to a fight and was bested by the Argonaut Polydeuces. It is also possible the sculpture represents some other heroized boxer from antiquity, like the infamous Cleomedes of Astypalia or the venerated Theagenes of Tassos. Notably, Theagenes' statue erected in the Agora of Tassos was believed to have healing powers, and his cult lasted for hundreds of years in the Hellenistic and Roman periods. Regardless of the subject's true identity, the statue's intricate details enabled Paul Gallico, an American boxing commentator and amateur fighter, to deduce the boxer's fighting style. After examining the sculpture in Rome in 1935, Gallico concluded that the athlete was a left-handed slugger who had endured repeated blows from a quicker, right-handed opponent. His analysis was forensic, focusing on the distribution of wounds, most of which appear on the boxer's right side. Some strikes landed heavily on his face, while others impacted his right shoulder and arm. The positioning of these injuries suggests that the boxer attempted to shield his head by raising his right arm, with the wounds there interpreted as defensive. Gallico ultimately believed the statue captured the moment of defeat, portraying the exhausted fighter in the aftermath of his latest match. He expressed these conclusions in a letter to British archaeologist and art historian Eugene Strong in 1935. Today, the boxer at rest is housed in the Museo Nazionale Romano at the Palazzo Massimo alla Terme in Rome. It is a must-see masterpiece for ancient art and combat sports enthusiasts. Like and subscribe. See you next time.